All right, the Hardwood Huddle is back on the air. My name is Randy Zellea, coming to you from the swamps of New Jersey. As with me, my co-host, the one, the only, the supreme leader. He has the force. He is better than Vader. Bill Ingram. He's down in Dallas, Texas. And our special guest today, we're going to go back in the time machine and tell his great career story today. The great Rolando Blackman. And now Rolando, not only is he a Maverick at heart, but for the small little time he was up here in New York, I was a little fan in those stands when he played the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals. So I have some questions for you as well. But first off, Rolando, thanks for joining us this morning, and welcome to the show.
Glad to be. It's a great time to talk about some basketball and really have the great time too. I remember those times in Houston also. Too. And I remember that my back was hurting like a SOB. So let's forget about that for a minute.
Well, appreciate it. And again, let's start. And like Bill is our Texas basketball aficionado. He knows everything. And like I always joke around because both of you guys have been involved with basketball for so long. You probably forgotten more basketball than I'll ever know. But like, let's just we'll call a spade there. And can you talk about, for you, from when you started playing the game of basketball to right now, the difference that you see in the game and how you feel it's changed?
Well, the biggest piece right now is just the physicality as far as that's concerned. That's really about it. I think when I first started playing the game, the beauty of the game was just the same as it is now. I mean, I grew up around when the New York Knicks won the basketball championships with Walt Frazier and Willis Reed and Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, you know what I mean? You had Dean Memminger, all those teams that were flowing. The Boston Celtics, one of my favorite players, John Havlicek, passing, moving the ball, really having the opportunity to see exactly what great teams could do. So right now, when I came in and started to play, it was a physical game. It was a beat down, go to the basket, get hit, get punched in the face. The other guy may get a foul. He may get a foul, but there was definitely no technical. Just go out there and take care of your business and get those things going, hand checking, pushing, shoving. So it was a different game back then, a lot more physical as far as that's concerned. And it changed the game a little bit as far as that's concerned. But after that 94 series with the Houston Rockets, I'm glad they changed it a little bit and we get back more to the flow of the game, the streamline of the game. And really, you still see the same thing, though. You still see great players executing the game, which still makes it a whole lot of fun to watch, as these guys can still play the game very well.
And Bill, what do we call that rule?
That's the Derek Harper rule.
Oh, definitely. Believe me, I used to play against Derek, and I used to play against Derek in practice, and because of that, I became an even better ball handler and dribbler. And like anything else, I always had to keep that elbow out to try to hit him in the face with it, just in case he went for the steal. So there was a lot of fighting going on in practice too, because Derek was the best at it, no doubt, the very, very best at that.
Well, Randy was a kid watching the Knicks in that series. I was a kid watching the Rockets in that series, because though I'm in Dallas and you and I got to know each other in the catacombs of American Airlines Center,
Definitely
I grew up in Houston watching the Rockets side. So that series was memorable to me because it was Houston's first championship, and I grew up idolizing Akeem Olajuwon, as everybody who watches this show knows, because it comes up once in a while. But from that perspective, as a kid, I rooted against the Mavericks passionately because you guys were the rivals of my Rockets, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
But then I think one of the things that was interesting for me was the perspective shift when I went from fan to journalist, participant, analyst, and it became less about the teams and more about the people. And I will say that you getting to know you and Mark Cuban, for that matter, and Dirk and some of the great people around the Mavericks organization, and Derek too, Harper. I came to appreciate the Mavericks from the other side of not just being a fan, but appreciating great people who are involved in the lives of great athletes. And I give you credit for being the person that you are. And I know Derek does the same thing, but these kids coming in, I think, have more, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit. the challenges facing now 19 and 20-year-old kids coming into a man's league, I think they're incredibly daunting.
No, listen, you're exactly right. And I think the important factor with that is that they just need training. They need maturity. They're kids who running around playing a game but don't know the hardships of what is necessary to really have the intensity and integrity to being able to play the game on any consistent level whatsoever. So the application means that once you get this kid, you're gonna have to groom him for the next 3 to 4 years to make sure that he's up to par to being able to help you to win, which is the most important piece of the puzzle. That's why everybody is doing the G League situation now, trying to get these kids into a place where if they're coming out of school early, then get them to a place where they can mature and get their games ready to go. It's not just about the game and playing the physical side of it, which is very, very tough and daunting, but the mental side of being a man and doing your job and getting ready for your job, applying your job, and being skilled at it night after night after night. They have no idea whatsoever what that is. So the important factor right now is that a team has even more to do in the scouting, in the application of all the development that goes on, and just trying to get this kid into a situation where he can apply himself to help the team. I think moms and fans and people look around and say, oh, he got drafted by that team. They're going to let him play. And you can't let people play. We're not a Lifetime Fitness. This is an application where you have to earn your measure, and the measure that you put together is for the application of winning. It's about winning. So all those things you heard before, it doesn't matter how you play the game, if win or lose, it's just how you play the game. That's for suckers. Nobody plays that way in the league. That's a nice little saying, but that doesn't count whatsoever when you talk about pro basketball.
Rolando, and you say that too, and I'm sorry about for cutting you off, but we've had Larry Brown on, we've had a couple different people on the show, and I always ask this question: is it fair from a coaching perspective that coaches now, unlike how it was in the 90s and the early 2000s, when the team is drafting a 19-year-old kid, is it fair for a coach to not only be responsible for trying to win games, compete for a championship, but also have to teach the game of basketball to a 19, 20-year-old who's only played 1 year of college, where in the past, that's where they got their education of the game, playing for these college coaches who was teaching the game? Is it fair for the coaches right now to have that extra pressure to have to teach a 19-year-old the game while trying to compete for a championship?
That's the extra burden that all coaches, I used to have the same thing, the same burden that they have now. That's the extra layer that they all have to deal with, simply because you're coming in with a kid that just came out of high school, 1 year out of high school, doesn't know really how to apply himself. And yet the important thing is that all fans, and even if the ownership, even with the Mavericks and all the ownership, it's important to note and understand that we want to win. That's the important factor. At the end of the day, you want to win, and the coach has to be able to apply himself in that way to get this kid ready, give him some time to play, but not losing the fact that you're trying to develop and win basketball games. Very, very difficult prospect, because you're not getting a set product. You're getting a product that's new, that's young, and doesn't even have control of his own emotions yet, doesn't even understand who he is as a person yet, and you have to develop all of that. That's why the development factors of all these leagues becomes so very important, along with the coaching. Who's talking to this kid and who's developing this kid besides the head coach? When he's away from the head coach, how does he develop and be able to learn about this league and apply himself in that way? Very, very difficult and new layer that has to be adhered to.
Can they utilize the G League more in that situation, do you think?
Yeah, they could utilize that, but it's all a professional situation. Once these kids have to come out and be groomed mentally to understand about the development of the game, understanding at what level and at what speed and what execution they have to play in order to get on the floor and help a team to win. But also that's mired also in the fact that they're trying to make money, and agents are trying to make money with this kid. So go to the G League. You have so many people in your ear from Europe, all over the place. Come play here in China. Come play here. Come do this. Come do that. We'll get a better team here. We'll get more money here. Those kinds of things. While this kid is still trying to work on his left hand, trying to increase his jumper, trying to increase the understanding of the game, making sure that the stance on defense as well, knowing that the ball is two passes away, to be 2 passes away from your man, to be able to recover. How do you? He's learning so many things and is hit with a deluge of information that's still needed. So it is the most difficult thing that a coach and a coaching organization has to do now, with all these kids having a chance to apply themselves at such a young age. And believe it or not, they're not ready.
No,
most of them aren't. I think the Mavericks have an exception right now because
yes, of course,
when you get a player who comes over from Europe who's been playing professionally for a number of years and has faced some of those pressures already, Luka Doncic has just been a breathtaking addition to that squad.
Yeah, but when you're playing from you've been playing professional basketball from the age of 14, then it becomes a situation where you've already applied yourself to all the screaming, all the yelling, all the things that you have to apply yourself to, and being able to skill develop. But for Luka, it's an aberration. It's something very, very different. People expect that kind of stuff all the time. It's not like Zion Williams. It's not like the kid out of Memphis. When you're talking about players that can hoop and come in their first year, you usually have to take so much more time. But when you're talking about Luka, though, you're talking about somebody that's already been Player of the Year in Europe, where they beat you down. They beat you down. So when he came to the league here with all that skill, dribbling, passing, understanding, IQ, can shoot the basketball, and now you can't touch somebody going to the basket. That was this was like walking through. It was like walking through a flower shop for him. Shoot. Anyway, too, that's the important thing.
So talk a little bit about your and for our younger people who don't know, the Dallas Mavericks were just some team that played until they drafted Rolando Blackman, and then you got a nice crew around you with over the years Sam Perkins, Detlef Schrempf, Derek Harper, James Donaldson. That team got to be very, very competitive, never quite made it to the top, of course, until the Dirk era. But from your perspective, there's one guy in particular that I enjoyed watching, even though he was not a Rocket, and that was Roy Tarpley. And Roy was the only guy in the NBA who could even come close to holding Akeem, but he had some off-court issues, substance abuse issues, I think. But talk about that. The special player that he was, even though he had an unfortunate end.
Well, this is the sad part of the whole story, in that he was when you talk about a 6'11" guy, 7-foot guy that could do everything and everything better than everybody else in the league. I mean, he was Sixth Man of the Year, but could be a starter on any basketball team, playing the small forwards, playing the center position, and having the power forward position. He used to. I want people to understand that he used to dominate. The word is dominate, not to just to play. He'd go out there and say, "I'm going to get 20 and 20," and go out there and do it against anyone. And he was fiery at the same time, off the court, a nice guy, could play the game so very well, and really give us a chance in our championship run to being able to be a part of something very special. I wish that we could have held that together also too. And of course, I don't want to be remiss and not remember the great player that Mark Aguirre was also too. I want to
Mark Aguirre.
in your putting that kind of stuff down. But Roy was just a tremendous player. Just could not hold his weight and do the things necessary off the court once the game stopped, which was his demise.
Isn't that a perfect example of what we were just talking about, which is where you come into this league and there are so many pressures. I mean, even when the media, we don't see it to the extent, but we do see what's waiting for players when they're on the road, when they're going into a hotel. We see the pressures, whether it's women, whether it's shady characters trying to take advantage of them. And for a 19-year-old kid, let alone a 25-year-old guy or 30, those things seem to always be the sharks in the water that can be really difficult for guys to navigate beyond just the X's and O's and the competition of the league.
Oh, very much, very much. I mean, you hit it on the head. Once you get to that hotel and around the hotel, you have so many different pressures coming at you, in that you have to have you have to have the maturity, you have to have the focus, and you have to have the understanding of how you want to execute your life. What is it you're trying to get accomplished, and what is it you're doing? And it's very difficult for a young fella, much less that you just said, somebody 30 years old. It's very, very difficult to being able to get through that. There's so many things going on, parties, different activities, all kinds of stuff. And remember, we're not playing football, all that kind of stuff. We're playing basketball. So at the most, we're at the gym for 3.5 hours. That's getting there. That's getting there and leaving 3.5 hours for some of us, like me. Well, maybe 4 or 5 hours, but okay, that's a different situation. That's why I shot 50% for my career. Okay, no problem. But, the important thing about it is to being able to have a focus and to really put yourself in a place where you know what you're doing, because there's so many pressures. After 3.5 hours, guys, you have the whole full day. Practice starts at 11. By 2:30. By 2:30, you're out until the next day. So you have all of this time before the next day. And if you don't have a focus and an understanding of what you want to do and how you want to run your life, boy, you could be led in so many directions, as many have, as we've seen throughout these years in the NBA. Many have. You lose it to the influences outside.
Rolando, I have to ask also, for your long tenure with Dallas, you saw a lot of people come and go. Who were some of your favorite teammates that you had over the years?
Wow, some of the favorite teammates. I would have to put that as Derek, for sure, Derek Harper, James Donaldson. They used to call us the Book Brothers because we used to sit in the back of the bus and be the only two people reading some books. So I'll take that nickname anytime. So let me see. A lot of the guys also too were. I think those two guys were the guys that I was around the most with, as far as the timing is concerned, and teammates that I really, if I would spend time, I would spend time with them and really have the opportunity to do some things. That would be the guys that I remember the most. And of course, every now and then, hang out with BD, Brad Davis. Definitely so.
And what was it like for you to make the transition and end up in New York for that 94 season? What was that like for you, not being in the Dallas area? Did it feel how different was it for you?
Listen to me. It was at first fantastic. I was going back home to Brooklyn. I grew up in Brooklyn, East Flatbush, New York. I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to school in New York City, Grady High School, 4 blocks from Coney Island. So I was right there all the time. I grew up playing basketball in the city streets, citywide, out in Brooklyn, hooping. So going back into New York, where a lot of my young heroes were, as far as that's concerned, with Earl Monroe, Walt Frazier. You know what I mean? Dollar Bill Bradley. It's the reason I shot the catch and shoot, to being able to get that kind of stuff done, and then watching them play against John Havlicek, which is exactly that movement, catch, take them, shoot it in the face. It was a wonderful thing as a kid to grow up in Brooklyn in that kind of stuff, in that kind of atmosphere. But it was also bittersweet in that 3 weeks before training camp started, after I got traded from the Mavericks to New York, that I herniated my disc in my back. So I spent that year in some serious pain. The next year, surgery. And once you have surgery in the league, you know what's happening. Everything changed for me. I went from starting shooting guard to the third guard, and therefore things changed. 2 years in New York, and that was it. 2 years in Europe, and basketball career was over.
What was it like in Europe?
No, go ahead, Randy. That's good.
I'm sorry. I was about to say, what was it like playing in Europe at that time? Because Europe has slowly produced some of the best NBA players over the last 15, 20 years. What was it like for you to play on the other side of the pond? What was that like for you?
No. It was fantastic, simply because, again, I was healthy at the time. I was burning like crazy to continue to play, because we had just lost a doggone championship to Mr. Ingram's Rockets. we had just lost the championship, so I was burning.
I didn't wear my Rocket stuff today. I wore my Mavs stuff. Come on.
I was over there
trying to rub anything in anybody's face here.
Man, that still burns. Well, I loved Houston. I wish I could play. I had my highest scoring average against them, and I didn't get a chance to get on the floor to whip their behinds. and it was a tough situation to be sitting there watching guys that I killed all this time. But life brings you many things. But Europe was fantastic. I went over to Ike. I was in Athens, and I played for a team called Ike, and I was right there in Athens, Greece, for a year. Wonderful. Eddie Johnson was still playing there. He was playing for a team called Panathinaikos there. I was playing for Ike. There were other players playing. Dominique had just left the year, but Dominique Wilkins had just left the years before. Then I went to Milan, Italy, and played for Olimpia Milano, which had a fantastic player by the name of Bodiroga and Gentile and Fuchka. It was a tremendous team. We won the championship there, and that was a tremendous thing. I think that's what my mind needed, though, as far as that's concerned, because at the end of that summertime, I was training, and lo and behold, Roe didn't want to run 3.5 hours anymore. It was like time to get back to the USA, and came on back and started my broadcast career there. Definitely so. Definitely. It was wonderful, though.
How do you think that I had an opportunity to visit with Hakeem a couple of years ago. He invited me over to his house, which for a kid who grew up just loving him, that was quite an experience. But he said that, at 50, there was a viral video of him at 50 playing Dwight Howard in a half court. Dwight went to work out with Hakeem to try to work on his game and footwork and stuff. And Dwight couldn't get past Hakeem. But Hakeem said if the trainers knew then when you were playing, what they know now, like doing yoga to help with stretching and these kinds of things, that he'd probably still be playing, because he had the back injury, a disc injury, and basically was given a choice of retiring or having major debilitating surgery, and he chose to retire. But when you watch the kids now work out with, and the Mavs I'm sure most teams do, but I've seen the Mavs stuff more, just an incredible training team and workout facility and the routines that they go through. And I started doing yoga myself as a result of a conversation I had with several players who were doing it, Jason Terry being one of them. And
yes,
it's incredible. I mean, I think
it's top of the food chain. It's top of the food chain. When you have guys like Casey Smith who leads the Mavs, and being able to he's also the lead trainer for our Olympic basketball team. So when you talk about stretching, when you talk about the physio of what a certain body part needs to being able to not only come back from injury, but to re-strengthen, keep your body intact and shape and going throughout. I mean, I walk in the gym now and I have tours. I work with the Mavericks in corporate relations and business and community. And when I walk into the training room now to show them around, at first I had to get a orientation in the room because we remember, as you all know, we remember just getting the ice and dunking yourself in that little pool that you're sitting there crunched up in a fetal position trying to get ice all over the body. While now they have pools they just sit down in, get themselves ready. They have every single piece of the puzzle to being able to take care of themselves. Not only coming back from injury, they have a underwater treadmill, so you get the buoyancy there. You don't have the pressure on the body, but you're still running, keeping yourself in shape. Weights and training to be able to keep the body parts strong, and doing it in a smart, scientific way to keep the body going with nutrition and meals and all the things that would feed your body the way it needs. It's a wonderful, wonderful science, and it's no doubt why guys now play a lot longer. Reggie Miller played a long time. We talk about Dirk hooping and playing in that era and playing the game for such a long period of time. It's because of the physio. It's because of the guys that can do the job to be able to keep your talent level up to a certain point. The most wonderful thing ever. I wish I did have that too. I could have squeezed out a 3-4 more years for sure.
And yet we still have players in their primes, not to pick on any particular names, but we know who they are, who for some reason can't play every game, even with all this load management.
It's just a different mindset. It's just a different mindset and a different opportunity now to the funding, the dollar value is so high, guys, and people watching, the funding value is so high that when you talk about when I played, the salary cap was 10 or 11 million. Then it went up to 11 million. I remember that. It went up to, and now it's over 110 million. You know what I mean? When you talk about salaries and those type of things, to the TV packages, the last time they signed the TV package, it was a 9-year, $24 billion package that's coming up for renewal in another year or so. So when you talk about that, people want those guys on the floor. People want those guys to play. People want to see them all the time. So all the load management is just to being able to put these guys on and make sure that they're valued, except if you're Popovich, on the national TV games.
Well, there was some politics behind that one, to be fair. But, I think it started with Pop because he had his core group were all older. They were later in their primes. Mm-hmm. And he knew that when guys have spent that many years, not just playing the 82 game season, but the Spurs were in the finals every other year. So you're piling on extra seasons in postseason play. And I think for him, that was brilliant to recognize. We can't afford to play Tim Duncan 46 minutes in a January game against, some team that win is not that important when you're thinking about June 15th.
Yeah,
I agree.
But to be also fair from the other side, that was also a nationally televised game, and Pop still had that little sour taste in his mouth from the previous season. So that was a little, what to the league, sitting there saying, you have us going back to backs on national TV. All right, well, guys, go home. Patty Mills needs some run right now. That's what's going on right now.
I think it's all fantastic. I think it's all fantastic for the load management and having the opportunity to get some of those things done. It's very difficult sometimes when a paying fan pays their dollars and all of a sudden the star that they wanted to see does not play. But I think that you got to load manage sometimes and put those things together if you're gonna keep going for the rest of the run. But the one thing I don't agree with at all whatsoever, as far as I'm watching as a fan, as a person in that kind of a thing, is when there's a national TV game, dude, you got to play. You got to at least show up. You got to, it's a national TV game. That's what the television package is about. That's what the salary is, that your salary is being paid out of. That's what the good things that are happening for fans all over the world to see the game. So when a national TV game comes, you got to at least show up you got to at least go to the warm-up line. You got to get out there for the first 5 minutes, and then you can sit down. Then you can sit down that game, and then you can move forward. And of course, my way kills your stats. But okay, I understand exactly what's happening, though. It's important though that they show up for those games.
But you just said it too, though. It's one of the most important things. If LeBron James is only coming to your town one time a year, that's the wrong time for him to take a game off. If you're going to take a game off, you should do it more towards the end of the season. If Atlanta is coming to town and they only have 20 wins under their belt, that's when you should be taking your time. Not doing it in January when you're going to Miami and it's the only time of the year that they're visiting the Miami Heat, because right there a kid could be paying money to see Tim Duncan, Tony, Manu, and Kawhi play together, and they're all not playing because Pop was sitting there saying, all right, let's you guys have the night off.
Listen, I agree completely. I know families that come from different parts, especially like here in Texas. Families come from different parts of Texas and have to drive 5-6 hours to come to a basketball game. And the opportunity to know that is to being able to, if you're going to do that, then say so before the game. Then say so so the person can get their tickets back and maybe they can apply for a different game and those kinds of things. I think in that essence, you've got to be able to be at one with the fans also. They're the ones that come to the games, put those pieces together, and it's an important part of the fan camaraderie piece too. I would have hated to have gone to a game and missed Walt Frazier and Earl Monroe playing that backcourt. My goodness, what a highlight it was for me to sneak into the games to see it. Okay, I didn't pay, but okay, no problem. But
that was you. That was you.
That
was you.
Back then they had a back fence back there too that I had a couple of doors open or whatever the situation is. So for a kid from Brooklyn, sometimes you'd walk right back there and be running around upstairs and watching the team play. I mean, it's a mind-blowing highlight to watch these teams that kind of a team play on the basketball court. That's exactly why I shoot the catch and shoot, because of Dollar Bill Bradley and John Havlicek. So it's a big highlight, guys, and people should be able to see the games. If you're not going to play, tell them so they can make other arrangements.
One thing I think, watching the Donald Carter when I first started covering the NBA, Donald Carter had just sold the Mavericks to Mark. And seeing the way that Mark transitioned the fan experience at a game, you come to see the teams play, of course, and the players, but that I think Mark gets that family experience in a way that a lot of sports and teams don't get. I see it with the Texas Legends too. They do the same thing. There's a bunch for families to do and a bunch for kids to do besides just watch the game. Like if it's halftime, there's all kinds of stuff set up around the concourses and things for kids to do. I think it's become, I think something Mark brought was that it's not just hardcore fans coming to sweat over a basketball game. It's become a family experience, something that you look forward to as a family outing and not just some guys getting together and going to a game.
Mark has always been in tune, not only for the team and the players, but also with the Dallas community, knowing that families will be coming to the game, and especially bringing that experience also too with the Texas Legends. I mean, you go to a Legends basketball game, and once that doggone timeout stuff comes, you see kids over there playing a game. There's a trampoline over here. There's all kinds of different things going on in and around the game for families to come and enjoy. I mean, people may be sitting in their seats for a full quarter and haven't seen their kids because their kids are over here with a group of other kids that are playing and running around. And also even for the Mavs in the community, the Mavs all throughout to keep a constant level of communication with the people, letting them know what's going on, giving them an opportunity to be a part of the games, bringing ticket prices down, especially in the upper level, so people can come watch the game, get a Coke and a hot dog and an opportunity to be a part of something very, very special as it's going on. So he's always been in tune with that. And with the people around the Mavericks organization, they've always cared. You've got to care. You've got to care. And the Mavericks, I can tell you, for all the years that I've been here, do care quite a bit.
And he had to learn a lesson, though, Mark did. Sorry, Randy. Everybody has to learn lessons, I think, as you grow to be successful. And that NBA Finals series against the Miami Heat, to me, was, Mark is vocal, used to be a lot more vocal, but to see him really get taught a lesson at the expense, I thought, of the players that year seemed like not very good business I just thought, again, not a Mavericks fan at all, just as an observer sitting there. And even the Miami Heat media people who were with me were just kind of shaking their heads at the way it seemed the league wanted to teach Mark Cuban a lesson at the expense of that team.
Well, the important thing is that I didn't hear part of your question. I got a telephone call from one of my friends and all that kind of stuff. I'll let him know about that because I told him yesterday I'll be on the call. And he still called me. I don't know what the deal is. I guess that's what a lot of the knuckle in head means. Oh my God! I told everybody yesterday. But could you repeat a part of your question again so I can answer it, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, Mark had some learning to do too as an owner in the league, because his style, his outspoken nature, and him being such a rabid fan on the sidelines, he had to learn to reel that in because David Stern and the league taught him a lesson. I really felt, and Tim Donaghy acknowledged this, that the refs thought they needed to teach him a lesson, and I think the Mavs lost the championship largely because of that lesson being taught.
Well, it was a difficult time. I think like anything else, because you have to understand that it's a twofold thing because of how boisterous and smart Mark is. That the important fact is that that led to a lot of changes in the league, referee programs, the opportunities to understand exactly how those programs could be entered into a higher level of getting the calls to the paperwork to the coaches, to people all around. It's a big deal that Mark did a lot of yelling and screaming, but a lot of yelling and screaming led a lot to the changes, a lot of changes made around the NBA. And did it hurt us? I was on the bench. Don't forget, I was on the bench as an assistant coach. So it was a situation where you had a new young owner and an owner who wanted to get things done and was very, very boisterous about it. And like anything else, we knew that at the end of the day that that kind of stuff would hurt because there is a human retaliation that goes on in anything that you, when a guy has a whistle in his mouth and you're beating him down, you know what I mean? Dwayne Wade to go to the basket, not get touched, and he'd end up at the free throw line. I'm like, what the heck? We'd be looking at the tape the next day over and over and over again. Like, this guy went to the bucket, nobody touched him, and yet Bennett Salvatore was like, foul. Like, Bennett, there's no foul there. What's happening with that? There's no foul here. There's no foul there. There's no foul here. It was, we paid a little bit for that, but the important factor about that is that they got their payback. That's for sure.
Rolando, I got to ask for you, how was the transition from going from player to team official, like you said, coaching and being involved with every part of the game after your playing career? How was the transition for you?
Well, for me, it was it's been a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of opportunities that's there. I went from there to player development coach to head of the player development piece, then going into the assistant coaching piece, working with some fantastic coaches. And when you talk about Don Nelson, when you talk about Avery Johnson, you're talking about people that know the game and can really transition deep into the basketball game, which was a wonderful time for me. After that, I got into, like I am now, into the management side of things, where I get a chance to deal with the corporate relations and having the opportunity to deal with the business leaders, having the opportunity to deal with the season ticket holders, the community development. I'm in a place where I need to be right now, because it gives me a chance to not only be around the team, but it gives me a chance to be inside of the community, and I can talk about many, many things and really enjoy the fact that I've been here for a long time and bring that enjoyment to other people who are new Maverick fans, old Maverick fans, whatever the situation is. We can deal with it. We can have that argument. Is Oscar Robertson better than Magic Johnson? We can have that argument, that kind of a situation, and go back and forth about the players of the past and the players that are playing now. It's a wonderful thing, but the NBA has done a great job in keeping everybody highlighted as far as the NBA is concerned, and keeping everybody's interest.
How hard is that to, when you have and we all have these conversations with younger people who want to say LeBron James is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, better than Jordan, better than Magic, all that. And I think, LeBron's an incredible player. He is. There's no question about that. But better than Jordan?
It's just that we're, it's wonderful. We're in an age of TV, all this advertising, Twitter. People are getting back and forth, and people are doing their Instagram posts, and we got the YouTube, we got all kinds of stuff going on, and it's a lot of opinions being thrown around all over the place. But at the end of the day, it's so much fun. You can't get into the basic argument of all of that, because there's no winning. There's no winning in telling somebody that I played against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I played against Kareem. You know what I mean? I played against and I'm smiling right now, but my heart is full of pain from all of them, all the times they kept beating us down because of that kind of stuff. I played against Michael Jordan, and you understand the fierceness of those kinds of things going on. The only one who has ever matched that kind of a thing is Kobe Bryant. Is matched that kind of ferocity with unbelievable talent. Unbelievable talent, and the courage at the end of games to being able to take over and to be that kind of stuff. So if you want to argue who LeBron is better, then maybe you can argue about LeBron and Magic Johnson, because they're the same type of player, But you cannot put him in a stream with an attack orca, because even great whites like LeBron can get mowed down by the orca that is Michael Jordan. So you just have to understand what the whole situation is, what you want. One is an attack player. One is an extreme attack player with incredible talent, and the other guy is a fantastic player, one of the greatest all-around players we've ever seen, can do everything well. He's a great facilitator. He facilitates the team. He sets the tempo, puts himself, he can shoot, pass, dribble, post. He can do it all. just like Magic could. The same situation going on. But when you have attack players, they're different players that you shouldn't go up against them like he's better than him because this and that and the other. You have to put them in their categories and go down. And then at the end of the day, you got to put Kareem in there. You got to put Wilt in there. You got to put people that, people average 50 points a game, 25 rebounds, 8 assists. I mean, you have to be careful with what you're saying. You can always talk about the greatest in their time. If you do that, you'll be okay. But all this all-time stuff, you got to get away from that. They're the greatest in their time. We can argue about that, but not one guy was better than everybody else. You can't do that. You can't win that argument.
If you saw me raising my hands up in the air in victory, it's because
yeah.
I've been saying the same thing since we started the show.
Yep.
That if you're going to put any type of comparisons, you put Kobe with Michael and you put LeBron with Magic, because just like Magic, LeBron can play 5 different positions and has the skill sets to do a little bit of everything. Whereas Jordan and Kobe, you have to kill them to get the ball out of their hands during that last shot. Yeah. They're assassins, so. and so that's
very much so.
So when we have that comparison with LeBron and Michael, it drives me crazy because it's 2 totally different style of players.
Completely agree. That's what kids and people have to be taught also too. I think it's a lot of fun for TV because TV, of course, like anything else, they get a chance to have so many fans, talking points, and it's a situation where you drive all that kind of social media situations. But in reality, one is an attack dog, no doubt. One is an attack, and then the other guy is one of the greatest facilitators ever. And I tell people all the time, you think it's fun to see a 6'9" guy coming down the court full speed in Magic, full speed at you. Full speed. That's the same thing they feel about LeBron, because he can make the basket, he can take the shot, or he can facilitate a super pass to being able to get it done. But with Jordan, you knew once he got into that mode, that tongue started wagging, all those moves started to go down, and at the end of the day, if he's near the basket, you're not even getting help from your bigs because they know that they're going to be on the next poster. You know what I mean? So it's tough to.
What was it like playing against Michael? Like having to guard him? What was that like? Explain to everybody, because
the only thing, the only thing that's important about all of that is that you have to do it, and you have to understand what the parameters are. The only way to have a chance against Michael is to being able to just do like I did, do like Reggie Miller did, do like Mitch Richmond did. You have to attack him. You have to attack. If you attack, you get an opportunity for him to have fouls. You get an opportunity for him to run him around. And you get an opportunity to display your skills within the basketball game. That's the only way to being able to do that. Anything else about listening to some guy talking about make him go left and make him go right, and there's some drawing on the board before the game, you might as well just under Jordan, you might as well just erase that and just ask for help from the next guy to being able to be close to him. But when you get on the offensive end, attack him, and that's the only way to do it. So listen. Take it from me. Period. That's it. End the conversation. So the other side about playing defense and stopping, all that stuff sounds good, but it doesn't work. And it didn't. That's all.
I do think that when you talk about TV and now, of course, YouTube and Twitter and all these things, I have found, and as you know, you and I went and did a program for one of the poor high schools here in the Dallas area, together with Amal Shaw, and Amal and I did quite a few. And I like to show kids videos of the great players. And I remember one time it was a middle school, and they were talking about who's the greatest player, and their coach wanted me to emphasize defense. So of course I had a YouTube video of highlights of Olajuwon, and by the time we got finished watching that 4 or 5 minute video, I mean, I grew up watching the guy and I couldn't get enough of Akeem. And to watch the way those kids reacted when Olajuwon he's on over here on the left wing and somebody tries to shoot on the right side, and he's like magically gets from the left side to block the shot from the right side. He's up where the rim is here. Like he's so high, and he not just blocks it, but he learned how to block it, grab it, and start the break. Sometimes he would be dribbling the ball down the court after he blocked a shot. And some of the stuff that he could do. And who was it we were talking to? Dominique, maybe, or no, Cedric Maxwell, was, because he played with the Keem, said, never seen a guy that did every statistical category every night, just brought it. And watching the kids react to seeing that in the defense, you don't see that anymore. You don't see, certainly in the middle, even Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis types are not just highlight reel defenders every single time down the floor. I think being able to share that perspective with kids, especially young aspiring basketball players, all this media and the way you can pull up great players of the past is really helpful.
They just have to be told and to be shown the great players of the past, and being able to show them what the skill levels are and what they actually can do. Because of course, we're here. We're in a new wave. We're in the me now situation. And this guy's the best because he just came out of college 2 years ago. He's the best rookie I've ever seen ever. And people use that all the time, like ever the very best, and this and that. Ever. Like, wait a minute, the dude just came out of school just last year. He just let's wait to see what's happening. And also, guys in the past, like you're talking about Akeem. Akeem is just ridiculously talented, and yet because of his quiet, because of his reserve, because of that, he doesn't get on TV or gets talked about. When you talk about the greatest players ever to play the game of basketball, he doesn't get talked about in that kind of a sense. It's just all new media. It's new media situations, and I for one go with it and enjoy the fans having some fun and enjoying the time and talk about it back and forth. That's why I get to deal with the fans and really have an opportunity to have different discussions all the time about Oscar Robertson and, oh man, Russell Westbrook won three triple-double seasons in a row. Excuse me? I'm like, wait a minute. He is definitely one of the greatest players ever to play, but because some people don't like his game, they downplay that situation. I don't care what people are talking about. In order to have that kind of energy and that kind of game, to in a game, that I'm coming. That the games are tomorrow, next week, and stuff, and I still get a triple-double on your team, against your team. It is just ridiculous how fantastic the player is, and especially other players around the league. So kids and people just have to know and understand a whole lot more. But a lot of opinions out there. When you listen to Get Up in the Morning and First Take, and you're listening to all kinds of shows all over the place. So it's important that people just do some research themselves, because there were some bad boys out there, bad boys that could actually play the game. They don't even know about Dominique. Oh my goodness. So yeah. It's just crazy. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Rolando, I
remember there was a game that seemed like Dominique got carried off the court in a stretcher in the first half and came back and scored 20 points in the second half. That was a different era.
Nobody knows about this. It's a different era. It's a different time. It's a different situation, the different levels of physicality and power and play. You can see the same things now, but you see the same things at an easier time. It's easier for an offensive player to play, easier and much more difficult for a defensive player to play right now. Very, very difficult to stop a drive to the bucket, and then at the basket, there's no deterrent, because any touch, a foul, you guys are falling down like Oscar winners. You know what I mean? They are putting together the piece of the puzzle to get that guy thrown out. So it's a different game, but it's a more fluid game. So the fans can get involved in what's going on. You still have very, very high skill level players.
We got to thank Bill Lambier and Karl Malone in particular, and John Stockton for those Oscars on the flopping. Those guys
they flop. They flop for sure. And especially all the guys now go to the basket and a guy just contests. The guy sprays himself all over the court in order to get not only the foul, but the referees take time now to go over to the sideline, and now it could be a technical. So
yeah,
wait a minute.
Wait, and you left out the Academy Award winning Reggie Miller, because he was the hero. Reggie was the king,
and a skilled player, and a high level skilled, along with the acting, made him excruciating, made him very, very dangerous. He could play.
Rolando, I have two more questions for you. Then Bill will be glad to take over. But one has to be from your time in New York. What was it like during the Spike Lee Game 5 game when Reggie came out and hit 25 in the fourth quarter? When all that was going down, you were on the bench. What was that like? Because you guys had a lead, then all of a sudden Spike starts chirping and Reggie goes off. What was that like from a player perspective?
Was that in 94 or was that in 95?
That was 94. 95 was when he did the 8 points in 9 seconds.
Exactly. I was in Athens and heard about that one. But you know something, when a guy like Reggie Miller starts to go crazy, you're talking about one of the great players, one of the great shooters, movers, and can play the game at the highest level. Plus, don't forget that Reggie had the psychological edge. You know what I'm saying? When you talk about the psychological edge, when he had that over John was a fantastic streamlined, just a bulldozer coming at you. He's coming at you with all the intensity that there is. But the important factor was that Reggie used that sometimes against him in that kind of a way and was able to score all those points because he could play. He could shoot the basketball, come off the screens, making sure he got the fouls, and was dealing with the situation where Spike started talking all that trash. And that's exactly what happens when you're on the outside. And now that impacted us because he was able to whoop our tail with extra incentive from somebody on the sideline talking that trash that's not playing any defense whatsoever, not doing any shots, not getting any rebounds, not anything else. But he inspired Reggie because Reggie's on the other side. And Reggie's a lot like a lot of players. A lot of the great players, like all of us, a lot of the great players that once you start talking trash, we're not going to wilt away. We're going to now bring our best to you to shut you up, and that's exactly what he did.
And also from a perspective of the Mavs and how long you've been with the organization and how they look at you, how does it feel to knowing that you're on the all-time Mavs team in the NBA 2K game? Is that pretty cool to see yourself in a video game? And
that's fun. Yeah, that's fun. That's fun and that's fun and a great honor to be a part of something so very, very special in that way. I'm always excited about those kinds of things too because it leaves legacy. To have my number is hanging up in the rafters there. It's hanging up at Kansas State University. It's hanging up at my high school in Brooklyn, New York, at Grady High School. And all those things are legacy pieces that'll last forever, way past me. So my family can check it out. My friends can see it. It's something that's very, very special in its way. It's a great, great heartfelt situation and a huge, huge honor.
So there's one more player I wanted to ask you about playing against, and this is because my first awareness of the NBA as a little kid, my grandmother up in Oregon was the world's biggest Blazers fan. I mean, if the Blazers were on, and it was on the radio. It wasn't televised back then. And so I had a natural fandom for that team. And Clyde Drexler was a guy that I, of course, he was in college in Houston, where I lived in Houston, then went to Portland and ultimately came home and won the Cinderella championship with Hakeem. But that was a guy, the Blazers were a team that the Mavs played a lot. Seems like you caught each other in the playoffs a lot. And you did a lot of head-to-head time with Clyde too. I think because of Jordan, he's another guy that doesn't get talked about as much as he should be.
Very much so. I mean, Clyde was a fantastic talent. Shoot the basketball, pass the basketball, jump from the free throw line, and dunk the basketball, and had a fierce competitive nature. Even though he did it in a quiet way, I think all us quiet guys seem to get the stick sometimes. I think it should be. I think a lot of times you got to be boisterous and make a lot of noise on the court, yell and scream and. After you score a layup, you know what I mean? So it's like just look at me, I just scored. It's just a different situation. And Clyde was just a graceful, very, very graceful, highly skilled, and a person that played behind a great player in Jim Paxson for 2 years. He played behind Jim Paxson, and then had an opportunity to get on the court. And once he got on the court, he took over because of his overall skill and talent. He could shoot the ball, he could pass the ball, he could jump. He could dime. He understood exactly how to play. So it was fantastic going up against him on a regular basis also too, because he was one of the great players, and was able to win the championship coming over from Portland to once again over to Houston to get a championship alongside Hakeem. So I'm very happy for him. He was a very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Well, Ro, I want to put, again, just for our younger people that watch that maybe didn't get the opportunity to watch you play as I did, not you wouldn't toot your own horn, but Ro Blackman was the all-time leading scorer in Mavericks history until a couple of years ago. That title was exported to Germany. Of course, Dirk, the skinny kid out of Germany that Milwaukee drafted, no one ever would have imagined that he would be everything that he was. Incredible player, and I mean tireless in the community with the kids after games, signing lines of kids lined up to get autographs, and he waits and signs them all. And of course, for the media, that got frustrating because we had to wait, but that was the important thing.
So.
You know? And I think you, as an ambassador to the team and to the game, I just want to thank you not only for your time, but also because I know you care about the community and the kids of our community and
Yes.
the NBA as a body of role models, and embracing that is incredibly important. And I want to thank you for doing that. I think you're doing a really important thing for our community here in Dallas, but also for the NBA.
You know, I appreciate it deeply too. I went going back into Dirk. Dirk is such a wonderful basketball player that I knew after I played. Listen, I played 11 years in Dallas, and once a guy starts playing 17, 18, 19, 20 years for 21. When you're playing 21 years for a basketball team, I knew that record was going to go sometime. That's for doggone sure. It's a situation that Dirk is a tremendous player, can play the game, understood exactly what to do, and he was a guy that was also fearless when it came to the end of the basketball games, with all the skills that he had to being able to put the ball in the hole and to being able to do it in the right way. We had our chances there in 2006, believe me, after winning those first two games, and like anything else, he came back in 2011 and proved himself to be the great player that he is. I was and still continue to be so happy for him in that way, and plus for the Dallas community also. We're in the community as the Dallas Mavericks are in the community, so it's a wonderful opportunity to be a part of the uplifting of the next generation and giving them deeper understanding of what they need to being able to get into the success stream, not only for basketball but for life, and being able to put themselves into a format that moves them forward. Black kids, Latino kids, poor white kids, all the people who live in those kinds of areas are lacking in the things that they get school-wise and societally. So for us to be in that way, it's a great situation to bring them up to speed as to what's happening, and we love doing it.
Rolando, I thank you so much for your time. Bill and I we went over the list of people we want to have on the show, and you were right there at the top. And we said, like, wow, we were able to get you today, right on the cusp of the restart of the remainder of the season.
Yes.
And we thank you so much for joining us here on the Hardwood Huddle, and we'll definitely catch you down the line. And when I make it down to Dallas in the next season, we'll definitely cross paths and
please do, Randy. Bill, take care of yourself, man. I miss you walking up and down the hallways. You take good care.
I know, man. I'm gonna make a point of coming down. I'll make a point of coming down and seeing you once games get going again, buddy.
All the time. Take good care, guys. I appreciate it very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rolando. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Right. The great Rolando Blackman joining us here on the Hardwood Huddle. And Bill, listen, this is what we do. And as you can see, we also we're trying to get back to once a week, and now that the season's getting rolling, we can start getting back to some norm and getting some good basketball talk. And we have some fun guests coming up down the pike and some ideas of what we want to do. But we want to thank everybody for tuning in, and this is going to be our new home, doing these shows both on Facebook and YouTube. And I think now that you and I have worked out the technical difficulties, I think this worked out very well.
Absolutely. And when when the players can figure it out too, that's always helpful. So Ro did great. And as you said, somebody I have long admired and was looking forward to having on the show. So I'm glad we finally worked that out.
Excellent. Bill, we'll definitely see you next week. And thanks for tuning to the Hardwood Huddle. You can follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and of course here on YouTube and Facebook. Go to backsportspage.com. The archives are listed there. And you can follow Bill at
The Rocket Guy.
All right, The Rocket Guy. And I'm at Randy BSP. Until next time, my name is Randy Zellea. The Supreme Leader, Bill Ingram. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.